Hi there, this is Cookin Kitty. Welcome to SHIFTERLAND episode number 97. Or no, 98, 97 or 98. But we're at Snoqualmie Falls in Seattle, Washington, and I just want to show you some of the splendor of what the state of Washington has to offer. And as you can see, the falls are in the background, and then this is Snoqualmie is actually a Native American term that is actually the English term for what they call Snoqualmie. The Native American term for Snoqualmie is saw cocoa, and that is actually a Native American term for moon. So yeah, we're gonna explore the different aspects of this nature, and there's a lot of other stuff going on here besides nature. There's industry, such as hydroelectric power, and Washington actually leads the country in hydroelectric power. We have upwards of 90% of our electricity is created by hydroelectric power, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Hi there, this is Cookin Kitty, and we're at the viewpoint at Snoqualmie Falls, and like I was saying earlier, the Snoqualmie is the Native American word for moon, and it's the English version of their word for what they call saw-co-co, and so and then their word for moon, their god, for their creator, the Snoqualmie Tribe, their creator, their god is called Snoqualm, and they're to English, that's created to Moon the Transformer, which is pretty cool. They're the creator of the world for the Snoqualmie Tribe is called Moon the Transformer. I'm sorry, Moon the Transformer is what the Snoqualmie Tribe calls their god, their creator, that created the entire world. And this is very, very sacred space that America is now using to produce hydroelectric power, which probably some of it is being siphoned off by California, which happens to be the 7th largest economy in the entire world. It's just a state, but it happens to be the 7th largest economy. And there's no telling how much of this electricity they're siphoning off, because they're sucking the water and the electricity off all the entire western states and some of the central states. They're sucking everything down. So anyway, that's besides that, it's a super beautiful spot. This is actually the second most visited spot in the state of Washington for tourism, besides Mount Rainier is number 1, number 2, Snoqualmie Falls. And both these things were well known by the Native Americans. Well, obviously the mountain's huge, anyone's going to know that. Hi there, this is Cookin Kitty, and we are on our way from the top of Snoqualmie Falls down to the bottom of Snoqualmie Falls, and there I'll be able to show you the power plant where some of the electricity for the state of Washington is produced. And as I mentioned before, that stupid state of California is probably buying some of our electricity because they have so many damn people, and it's like Hollywood's down there, and I don't know, I think it's probably just Hollywood, who knows, I don't know. But anyway, they're probably buying our electricity, and they're taking our electricity from they're destroying our natural resources. The state of California is taking our electricity. Anyway, we have here in Washington, with all our mountains and everything, we have several dams. Hydroelectric power is where we get most of our electricity. And on the Columbia River per se, we have several really large dams that produce a very abundant amount of electricity. There's the Chief Joseph Dam, there's the John Day Dam, and my favorite that I've been on several times is the Grand Coulee Dam, and those are all on the Columbia River, and they provide huge amounts of electricity for the state of Washington and for anyone who wants to buy it. I'm not entirely sure if California buys electricity, but I have this really sneaky suspicion that that California does buy some of electricity for sure. And it's sort of like, well, I'll get to this other thing. There is some, you remember the California energy crisis of 2000, 2001, 2002? Anyway, we'll get to that a little bit later. We're gonna descend down into the bowels of the waterfall. Hi there, we're getting ready to descend deep down a trail through some second or third growth forest because so much has been logged here, but you know, we still have this beautiful, beautiful place to come to even though all this wood, forest, timber has been logged by industry. But back in the late 1800s when they first built the power plants, the hydroelectric. Hydro means water, so it's electricity that is being generated by water because the water is moving and the water has kinetic energy. And as the kinetic, what we are basically doing here is taking the kinetic energy of the moving water and taking that energy and using the energy that is within it and changing it into electricity. That's the whole thing. That's the whole. I mean, besides the beauty and the spiritual side and the beauty of nature, that's there's two things going on here. We have industry and we have man that is harnessing the power of Mother Nature, which we take so much for granted. We are taking stuff from Mother Nature, but what are we giving back? I don't know. I'm going to pee in public a little bit later, and so I don't know if my urine will add to nature or not. But so anyway, back in the 1800s, around 1898 or so, there was two social events to garner when the power plant first opened in 1895, and then around 1898, a guy did a tight walk rope for the opening of the railroad that was put in here to celebrate the opening of the railroad. They had a guy do a tight walk rope across the falls, and that totally worked out great. 1 year later, another daredevil guy was in a hot air balloon, floating, and so he decided he was going to parachute out of the hot air balloon down to the bottom of the falls, where we are going to be a little later. But unfortunately, several high winds happened to occur while that was happening, and that poor soul got smashed against the rocks and died. So we got two daredevils. One lived and triumphed, and one died. Let's move on to the power plant and below to the bowels of the falls. Hi there. This is Cookin Kitty, and we took a slight detour to use the bathrooms and buy some cigarettes and get something else to drink. But anyway, the hydroelectric power plant that is here was the brainchild of a guy. His name's Charles something. Anyway, he was unemployed because of the economic crisis of 1875 or 1880. I mean, they have terms for this stuff right now. Economic crisis of 1880 or 1885. I can't keep track of all these data, but he's unemployed. He's sitting around going, what do I do? And so he asked his dad, can I have some what do you call that? Market, capital money, capital? What do you call that? Can you help me support or sponsor the building of a hydroelectric power plant in Snoqualmie? And so here's this guy unemployed in something considered to be the economic crisis of around 1890, 1885, 1890 or something. And I mean, so here we are in 2009, we're having America is having another economic crisis. And I don't, is there a term for this one yet? I mean, it's like you got the Great Depression, but right now we have an economic crisis going on. And so it kind of tells me that America might be a little flawed because we've been having economic crises since like from the late 1800s and probably a year earlier, but my brain is smart enough to know that. But so we've been having all these economic crises for so long. It's like it's not surprising that we're having this economic depression in the 2008 and 2009. But so this guy's unemployed and just says, let's build a power generator. We can talk about it a little bit more later when we talk about how electricity is produced by the motion of water. Can you hear that woodpecker?
Yes.
We are on our ways down to the bowels of Snoqualmie Falls, which is a very, very sacred area to the Native Americans that first were here before the white settlers, the white men, came over and used they used oral and written contracts to steal land and destroy society and culture of the Native Americans. But as we are going down into the bowels of Snoqualmie Falls, there is this awesome, there's a woodpecker. We haven't been able to identify, if it's the western red. I don't know. I know some woodpeckers, but anyway, we hear this woodpecker noise. We haven't been able to visually sight the woodpecker because the brush. There is some old growth here because the trees are a little bit. There are some bigger trees here, so there is a little bit of old growth here. It hasn't totally been fucked up by America and its industry and its. Oh, I have so much to say about American industry. I don't know where to start. I don't even know where to start. But anyway, I love the noise of woodpeckers, and it's just totally awesome. We're on the way down to the falls, and there's a woodpecker noise hammering away at the wood. Hi there. This is Cookin Kitty, and we are, as I had mentioned earlier, on the way to the bowels of Snoqualmie Falls, which is a sacred place for the Native Americans, the Snoqualmie Tribe that used to be in this area until around the mid 1850s. The white settlers came here, and they were here somewhere around the 1800s, early 1800s, 1850s, and then the settlers came over here and they made a treaty with them. They made several treaties, oral and written treaties in the mid 1800s, and one of those earlier treaties was called the Intercourse Treaty of 1832, where it was stated in this treaty with the Native Americans that the settlers could not occupy any lands that were occupied by the Native Americans. But in the small print of this little treaty, the Intercourse Treaty of 1832. Who fucking calls the treaty intercourse? I mean, what the Intercourse Treaty of 1832 states no settlers can occupy land that the Native Americans are living on. But in the small print it said, if you do want to do that, you must sign a treaty. Some of my information could be wrong here. I'm blending a little bit of stuff. But it does say that if you do want to get some of the land that the Native Americans are on, this is in the mid 1800s, you must do so before 1855, at least in the Northwest, in this area. And so what happened is that in a desperation and a greed, like American greed. I know greed has been going on forever, and I don't want to just blame American greed, but I think they've taken greed to entirely new heights, the culture of America. Anyway, so basically the law stated that if you wanted some of the land that Native Americans, the Snoqualmie Tribe, was living in this area, you had to do so by 1855. So what they did is they lied and they would cheat, and then when that wasn't working, they resorted to violence. And so basically, the American government gave its citizens permission to steal land from the Snoqualmie Tribe, and the government made all these agreements with the Snoqualmie Tribe and other Native American tribes, oral and written agreements, and that's a whole other thing, because the Native Americans, it's an oral tradition. It's like they don't want nothing to do with a written contract. So the United States government comes along and they writes all this shit on paper, and then they're handing it to the Native Americans, and it's like, anyway. So they basically stole their land, ruined the culture, and destroyed their society. And now we're using this river to create electricity for approximately 16,000 homes. Moon the Transformer, who's considered by the Snoqualmie Tribe to be the creator of everything in the heavens and the earth, or mostly because of the earth, if I understand it correctly, which I may not, because I'm a shifter and I get my facts confused. Anyway, what we have here is the myth of how the creator was created for the Snoqualmie Tribe. Moon the Transformer. Moon the Transformer. In the old days, all the people, the animals, plants, rocks and trees and rivers, supernatural beings, even the weather, everything was alive and could think and act much as human beings do today. But they also all had personal powers that we cannot imagine, like the ability to move quickly from place to place. That was in the old days. This is the story of how all of that came to change, how the world came to be as the first people knew it when they lived here on this land for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years before the settlers ever arrived. And then, of course, it all changed again, but that's not part of this story. This story begins at the ancient village of Tolch, which is just across the Tolt River from the little town we know today as Carnation. There were two young women, sisters, who lived there, about 15, 16 years old. The older one was named Tukwiye, the younger Yashlish. Their parents were high-born, important people of the village. One day, the two sisters went to dig fern roots, which were one of the main foods of their people. They went to dig on the prairie above a big dam, a fish trap, or fish weir it's called, that the people had built across the river. Today we know this place as Snoqualmie Falls. How it came to be changed from a fish weir into that huge waterfall, we will find out later in this story. Now that's a long trip from the village to the prairie, about 10 miles. Even if mostly by canoe, and of course, you couldn't paddle over the tall fish weir. You would have to park your canoe and walk from there. After a long day of digging, it was so late the sisters decided to spend the night on the prairie and return home the next day. That night was clear and it must have been fairly warm, and so the two sisters lay down to sleep, looking up at the dark sky with all of those twinkling pinpoints of light. Tukwiye saw one bright white shining star, and she wished that it could be her husband. Another star nearby, one that had a reddish cast, she told her younger sister would be good enough for her to marry. Now, with these thoughts in her mind, the two young women fell asleep. When they awoke in the morning, each of them was lying by the side of a man who was her husband. Tukwiye saw that her man, the one with the cloudy white eye, was old and wrinkled. On the other hand, Yashlish's husband, who had a reddish eye, was young and strong. Getting up, the sisters saw that they were in a strange country they had never seen before. It was perfectly calm. There was no wind at all. And as they would find out, it was always that way. In all other respects, though, the land about them was much the same as the land around their old village, Tolch. And life went on there just as it did back home. During the day, the men would take their bows and arrows and go out and hunt deer, and the women would take their digging sticks and hunt for roots. The two sisters wanted to fit in with the customs of this place, so they said to one another, "Let us go out and dig fern roots too." So they did, and they lived like this with their new husbands and their husbands' people for day after day, month after month, through the summer and fall into the winter. All this time, the two young women did not know where they were. They missed their home, their family and friends, the familiar village of Tolch, and all the land around it they loved. And the older sister especially did not like her husband, even though he was good to her. She did not like to look on his wrinkled face and his pale white eye. One day it happened that this older sister, Tukwiye, found that she was going to have a baby by her husband, the old man. Shiflet was sad when her sister told her this because her husband, though he was young, was always too busy to spend time with her. To hide her tears from this sadness, Shiflet began to sit where the smoke from the cooking fire would blow into her face, so that people would think she was crying from the soot in her eyes and not from her grief. The baby was born and was shown to be a healthy boy, but still both sisters remained unhappy, though for different reasons. While the child was very young, they stayed home to care for him. But as he grew older, it began to go out digging for fern roots. This time, though, the old man, Cookin's husband, took the two sisters aside and told them that they should be careful not to dig the roots that went straight down deep, to dig only those that spread out and remained near the surface. For a time, they followed the old man's advice, but they were so curious what would happen if they dug up the deep roots that one day they did. They dug and dug and dug, until finally, with a blast of air, a strong wind came rushing up through the hole they had made. They had dug all the way through the bottom of the sky, and now they looked down to their long-ago home on the earth, so far below them. Now they knew where they had been all this time. They had been living with the star people way up high in the sky country. Because they were homesick and unhappy with their husbands, Shiflet and Cookin decided to escape from their life with the star people. They covered the hole they had dug and told no one about it. They continued to go out on their errand, but they only brought home a few of the fern roots. Every day now, they would do the same, taking the baby boy with them. Finally, their husbands became suspicious and asked the sisters, "Before, your basket would always be full of fern roots. Now why do you only bring home so few?" Cookin answered, "The baby cries and I have to dig alone while my sister cares for him." But that was not the true reason. Instead of gathering roots, the sisters had been gathering cedar branches and tearing the inside bark into long strips. They had been twisting the strips into rope, and finally they had made a long rope ladder. On the 14th day after they had first dug the hole and caused the wind to blow, after they had first seen their home on the earth, so far below them, the sisters went out in the morning as usual, taking the baby boy with them. This time they uncovered the hole. They hung the rope ladder down from the sky and found that it reached to the earth. Shiflet stepped through the hole and onto the ladder. Cookin handed the baby to her sister and began to climb down the ladder herself. As soon as she was through, she closed a hole in the sky and caused a forest to grow above it. This way their husbands would not be able to find where they had gone. Now the two sisters had been away from their home on the earth for a long time. Their grieving parents had asked the various bird people, who were the best doctors, to search for their missing children. Blue Jay and the others had sung and danced, trying with their spirit power to find Cookin and Shiflet, but none could find them because their spirit helpers were not strong enough. Most of the doctors had given up the task and gone home, but a few were left dancing and singing on the prairie when the two sisters and the baby boy reached the ground. News spread quickly of their arrival, and people gathered at the site where the rope was touching the ground. So Wab Ko, the young woman's father, asked that everyone celebrate the return of his daughters and enjoy themselves by swinging on the long ladder they had made. From Shiflet's to Kulp's, a half-day's journey by foot, the people swung through the air on the rope ladder. Shiflet means footprint, and you can still see what look like big footprints on the side of the mountain that the white people today call Rattlesnake Ridge. Kilip's is camping place, named for an old chief of the people. Today we call this Mount Si. So they all swung through the air clear across the valley where the town of North Bend is today. While the sisters were still enjoying themselves with the people who were swinging, their blind old grandmother, Teloye, which means toad, was caring for the baby boy. She had wrapped the fretful child onto a cradle board and was singing to him. After a time, the baby's crying stopped, and he became very quiet. So quiet that Teloya got worried. She felt him and she sang out, "This feels like rotten wood," instead of a baby. Tukweye heard her and came running over and found that, indeed, someone had stolen her child and replaced him with a piece of rotten wood about the same size. In her grief, Tukweye took the baby's cedar bark diaper and clutched it to her breast. Crying out her sorrow, she carried the diaper to a nearby stream, dipped it into the water, and then wrung it out. 5 times she did this. On the 5th time, she heard the cry of a baby. It was a big, sturdy child, a boy who appeared there in place of the diaper. He had come to comfort the mother, her sister, and all of the people for their sorrow in losing the other. This is the one they named Speetweeks, which means diaper child. Now all of the best doctors, the bird people, were gathered again, this time to find where Tukweye's baby had been taken. Yellowhammer was the first bird to go in search of the child. He followed the trail to a narrow place where the earth was going apart and then coming back together. He tried to go through the opening, but he was not quick enough. Woodpecker, Kates, woodpecker, Kates, Kit-Kits, woodpecker, Kit-Kits went next, then raven, squawk, followed by osprey. None of them could get past the open and shut place. Finally, it was the turn of blue jay, who was called Skykai. When Blue Jay got to the passage, he flew quickly up and down and almost got through without being touched. But at the end, the earth closed against his head and made it flat. But Blue Jay was quicker. He did make it, and once through, he sang out for gladness at his success and his escape. Kakai, kakai, kakai. Then he looked around him and saw that he was in the land of the dog salmon people. They were the ones who had stolen Tukweye's baby boy. Blue Jay flew all over the place and found that the baby boy was now grown into a young man who was named Moon. Moon had married into the dog salmon people and now had 2 children of his own, 2 boys. When Blue Jay passed over him, Moon was making flint arrowheads. He picked up some of the flakes and threw them at the bird's eyes, saying, "Why are you flying around me like that?" And then after a moment, Moon said, "I do not feel right. I am feeling sad all the time." Blue Jay had been blinded by the flakes that Moon had thrown, so he came down and spoke to the young man, saying, "Grandchild, I have come for you." When he heard this, Moon cleaned out the bird's eyes, and the Blue Jay told Moon who his mother was, how he had been stolen, and how all of his people were sorrowing for him and wanted him to return home. Moon replied, "I shall go, but not with you, Blue Jay, and not now." That young man, Moon, had needed more time to say goodbye to his own children. Only when he had done that did he begin his return home. Driving the dog salmon ahead of him up the river, Moon called out to them, "Dog salmon, the new generation is coming now, and you shall be food for the people." That is how Moon began his work of transformation. All the long way home to his mother's people, Moon traveled, changing everything upon the earth. At first, the different animal people that he came to, Moon changed easily into animals that could be food, birds and ducks and clams, and later land otter and beaver. After a while, though, the other animal people heard what Moon was doing. They became afraid and made weapons to defend themselves against this transformer of whom they had heard so much, but had never seen. That is how it happened that Moon came upon deer making spear points of bone and singing, "With these I will kill the transformer." Moon suddenly appeared in front of deer. "Let me see these spear points," Moon said. Not knowing who this person was, Deer gave them to Moon, who placed them on Deer's wrist and saying, "You shall be something good to eat." Moon turned him into the deer we know today, that still has those tiny bones near its ankle, so sharp you have to be careful or they will cut you. Next, Moon came to a place where 4 women were fighting. Moon asked them what they were doing. One of them said, "We are practicing so we'll be prepared to fight Moon when he comes." Hearing this, Moon threw each of the women into the mud, saying, "You shall grow and be something good to eat." The women became what they are today: skunk cabbage, maidenhair fern, wild artichoke, and sand rush. Moon continued his trip home. He tamed fire, which otherwise would have burned forever and destroyed the world. Sticks and stones, which used to be alive, he changed so that now they don't strike us whenever they please. He came across an old man who made fun of him, who mocked him by repeating everything that Moon said. This made Moon angry, and the angry he became, the angrier this old man became as well, turning Moon's words back to him. On and on it went until Moon got the best of the old man, transformed him into Echo. Finally, it was that Moon arrived near the spot where he had been stolen as a child. There was a fish trap near there made of branches that stretched all the way across the river. Moon turned this fish weir into the high waterfall that today we call Snoqualmie Falls, so high that now no salmon can swim up to the land above it. After making the falls, Moon passed under the prairie, and there he was reunited with his mother and all of his earthly relatives. He met his brother, Diaper Child, who is now known as Sun. The people began celebrating in their excitement. They began to swing again on their rope ladder. Moon said to them, "The ladder will be there forever to swing on, or even for you to go up to the sky." Now it was time to make the light for the people to see by day and by night. Sun said to Moon, who was the eldest, "You travel in the daytime." So Moon began his journey through the sky. But as soon as he arose, everything became hot. Water boiled in the river. Fires began everywhere. "It is too hot," the people cried. So Moon came down, and then he said to his brother, "I think it will satisfy the people better if you travel in the daytime." Sun did that, and everyone was pleased. Now it was Moon's turn. "I guess I am to go at night," he said. "I'll warm my back where the land has become heated by sun." So Moon turned with his back towards the earth, and the light from him was just right. Moon's grandmother, Toad, was so happy to see him, she decided to keep him company. You can still see her there on the moon today. At this time, the rope ladder on which the people had been playing fell to the ground. All eyes turned to see what had happened. It had been gnawed in two by Rat. Everyone was angry and sad. Moon made a curse on Rat. He said, "From this day, Rat, you will gnaw and steal whatever people want and destroy what is good. You will crawl on the earth, and everyone will curse you." Now it was about time for Moon to go up into the sky, but before he went, he did 3 more things. The people of that time who were sitting around, he turned into the rocks of the mountains. He made all the rivers we know today, and as he made them, he named them the Snoqualmie, Puyallup, Nisqually, and Duwamish. He made them. He made the Snohomish, the Skyhomish, the Stillaguamish, and the Skagit. And then a man and a woman he placed on each river. Moon said, "Fish shall run up these rivers, salmon. They shall belong to each of the people on its own river. They will each make their own living from the fish, the deer, and all the other wild animals I have changed." From these first couples, the people increased in number until many people lived on these rivers. They have lived here for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, on all of the land between the mountains and the water of Puget Sound. For all of that time, until the settlers came, there was food and shelter for all of the people. and it was all the work of Moon and of no one else but Moon. Oh, careful. It's dangerous out here. Hi there. We're on the hiking trail from the upper area of Snoqualmie Falls down into the lower area of Snoqualmie Falls. And behind me, you can see some of the power lines that are used to transmit some of the electricity that is being generated by there are two power plants, hydroelectric power plants that are here. So anyway, we have these transmission lines here that are bringing the electricity that is being generated by the flow of the Snoqualmie River, which has actually nothing to do with the beautiful, beautiful falls, which is a sacred space. America came here and they stole stuff from the Native Americans who were here before them because of these like they felt they had these concepts of early on of manifest destiny and this other weird strange thing called Western expansion. I'm not entirely sure what it means, but it was these philosophical treaties, these philosophical concepts that I don't think the United States created them, but they reused them and reinvented those terms as an excuse for killing people, well, yeah, they're just killing people to do whatever they want to do. And they're using these philosophical terms of manifest destiny and Western expansion. They don't use them anymore. I mean, that was what they were doing back in the late 1800s and the early 1900s, and they probably have some more, well, not probably, I'm 100% sure they have some newer terms in this modern time of the internet and whatnot of how they're going to conquer the world and everything. But anyway, back to California, they are sucking all the water and electricity away, and through these power lines, a certain amount of our electricity is definitely going to California, and like right now we are having we're having a mini depression or whatever, and like the savings and loans and the financial institutions are all they're all falling apart because they've been lying. As far as I can tell, the American society, American culture, the American country, the United States of America was built on lying, lying. The American culture was built on lying, cheating, stealing, and violence, because it's like that was going on back then, and it's like, back in the 1800s, 1700s, and so now it's still happening. We have the financial institutions fucking up with the American taxpayers' money, and they want all this bailout money, and it's like, that's totally fucked up. And then we have the auto industry doing the same thing. It's like a shell game. Like it's like a shell game. It's like they're playing with our lives. It's like and the federal government is like, but there is a connection between the corporations that are screwing around, fucking up with the American citizens and extrapolating that fucking up with people to the entire world. God forbid that the United States, I used to think that space travel was an awesome thing. Like, I'm really, I'm really into space. I'm really into sci-fi, and I totally love sci-fi and like space travel. I've been thinking about it recently. Is that if the United States were to start exporting its culture of greed and violence and domination out into outer space, I mean, unless they met another race that was way stronger than them, like maybe the Borg, that'd be awesome if the United States got. Well, I don't want anything bad. I don't want anything bad at all to happen in the United States, because I actually do love the United States. Don't get me wrong if I say bad stuff about them. I mean, because they do allow the ability of me to afford at a moderate price alcohol to me, and you know, that's a pretty good country where you can have some alcohol that is somewhat affordable, even though they're
I don't know. Is that going to be on a catalog or what?
Notice you can't see my testicles. Hi there, this is Cookin Kitty, and I was recently discussing and talking about how I used to enjoy the concept of space travel, but then I was a little worried about what happened if. So the United States, I used to enjoy the fact of space travel, but what happens if the culture of the United States gets exported? Because the whole thing is that United States, it's like greed and the need to dominate has been around since well, actually before man was even alive. Animals. I'm an animal and I want to dominate. I'm an animal. Oh, God damn it. I'm an animal and I want to dominate too, but I want to dominate in a way that is a little bit more natural than the United States wants to dominate. And so, like, if the United States found a cheap, efficient way to invade space, they could spread their concept of greed and their concept of domination and their concept of violence and the concept of military is right and military is white. And so they would hopefully, if the United States, I mean, like I was saying earlier, I don't want nothing bad to happen in the United States because I love this place. But I mean, what if they go in outer space and there is actually nobody there strong in the United States, and then this whole culture of the United States, this disease of greed and military violence gets exported to like the whole fucking galaxy and the whole military? I know there's got to be somewhere out there there's some cultures smarter than us. I know it's happening, because the United States basically is a country, is a child, and it's just waiting to grow up. That's what I'm hoping. I'm just hoping that United States is just a child and at some point will become more mature. All right, we are still on the meager half-mile trail, three-quarter-mile trail down to the power plant, and then another, 300 feet, 400, anyway, we're on our way down to the bowels of the falls, and I've been discussing a few things. Unfortunately, I've been discussing about the infrastructure and the society and the industrial aspects of the falls here. But the whole thing is that the whole thing of the falls is that it's a super beautiful place. I come here as a spiritual retreat. I come here on a day trip from Seattle for a half day. It's like 40 minutes away, and I come here to enjoy nature, to enjoy the falls. And so I don't mean to be lying, to be stuck on these negative concepts of America fucking over itself, its own country, and rest of the world, and space travel, and potentially the whole universe. But like, just for pure example, I mean, like, this whole country is built on all this bullshit, and there is a lot of great stuff. There is a lot of great stuff going on, but right now my filmmaker is being attacked by a swarm of like 10 to 15 mosquitoes, and she is taking each bite like a trooper. She's being bit, chomp, chomp. The mosquitoes are, I don't know what it is. You must have some tasty flesh, because I have way more flesh exposed than you do, and they are not going for me at all. I think it's probably that quinine. I think it's the quinine in my gin and tonics. I don't think the mosquitoes like quinine. That must be it. That must be why I'm not getting eaten alive, because my filmmaker, Yossi, right now is getting eaten alive, and she only has about this much flesh showing. That much skin, like just less, like just that much. And it's like 50% of that is covered in mosquitoes right now, and she's not flinching at all. She's like, I mean, the pain, the poison that is being injected into her body right now from those mosquitoes. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that one example, I mean, you got the Enron energy scandal. One small aspect, it was super huge. One small aspect was the California energy crisis, which I've mentioned in 2002, and what they were doing, they were illegally and immorally manipulating the energy markets for profit. They were stealing from the government. They were stealing from the citizens of the United States. They were stealing from whoever they could, and it's like the government, you know, obviously knows what's going on. They must have been turning a blind eye. They can't be that dumb. So I think, you know, they're definitely, in conclusion, I mean, the government is definitely interested in corporations, well, I don't want to say this outright, but, you know, screwing over its own citizens. It just seems to me like, how could... So anyway, we have that going on, and then we have, as I mentioned, the savings and loans and the financial institutions, and then the auto industry, and this is what really scares me. Like, so we have all these companies that are doing all this fucked up, like, under the radar stuff, and just completely lying and cheating and doing illegal things. You have the American, what's it called, the health, what's that term, the health industry, no, the, what's
What are you thinking about?
What's that?
What are you thinking about?
I'm talking about the, our hospitals. I'm talking about the hospitals and our, what's it called? What's it called? The health industry? The not the health industry, the like HMOs and the hospitals and the health insurance. Like the health system. The health system in the United States. You know, you have the savings and loans, the financial institutions, you have these energy companies, and then you have the auto industry. You know, all these things are happening. What happens when, I mean, the health system in the United States is already fucked over? I mean, I'm not a communist, but it's like, it's kind of, you know, American citizens get sick, and then companies profit on American citizens being sick, and I think that their profit is sick. And so and it's like, you have all these huge sections of the American society or institutions. Oh, good Lord. Oh. See, this is what America does. Someone comes and bites you a little bit, America comes back with nuclear bombs. It's like, you take out American's eye, America cuts off your head. That's what happens. It's like this. Oh, it's fucked up. I mean, don't get me wrong. I live in America and I love America. We got to get down to the beautiful falls. It's very sacred. It's a very beautiful area, and I feel this area is very spiritual. And I'm a very spiritual person, just because I'm a little angry right now. And I don't want to say I'm pro-American, and I'm not anti-American, but it's a very complicated thing. Very complicated. Hi there, this is Cookin Kitty. I don't know if you can hear it, but Homeland Security is afoot in a helicopter, and they're trying to chase us down. But unfortunately, my white skin is so effing blinding that that they can't get a location on their heat-seeking missiles, because I am one hot kitty, and they're trying to fire their missiles at me. Homeland Security, they don't even give you a warning. They just go in for the kill, just like the police, the po-po. So anyway, we're down here at the generating plant number 2, which is built in like 1907 and then redone in around 1952 or something like that. And anyway, see. So what we have here is a transformer from plant number 2 at Snoqualmie Falls for hydroelectric power generation for mankind who wants to dominate nature. Like all the dams that are on the Columbia River, fucking up the salmon. Once again, the Native Americans getting screwed over, by the white man. And I apologize because I am white and I am actually very white. But thank God I'm very white because the helicopters cannot get a bead on me because my skin is so reflective, it is destroying all their sensors. So they cannot be seen whatsoever. I had something else. Oh, we can. So anyway, we were at power plant number 2, and what happens is that the river has energy in it. It's a river way on the mountains. It snows, but maybe eventually global warming and there won't be no more snow. But so the river is being converted into mechanical energy. So what happens is that the river water is being sucked from the moving river into these intake valves, and then what happens is that the water is directed from the intake into these pipes. And for some reason, those pipes are called the penstock, P-E-N-S-T-O-C-K. And if I had done more research, it's probably left over from Great Britain. And do you realize that by the way, the whole reason why this is possible is from a guy from Great Britain. He created, well, we're going to get to that a little bit, electromagnetic induction. This guy from Great Britain, once again, America stealing from other people to conquer the entire world. But anyway, a power plant, an hydroelectric power plant, water comes down these pipes, a penstock. And then what happens is that they rush down here, and then they hit these blades, and it makes the blades spin super fast. The blades are connected to a turbine. The turbine is connected into the generator. And so what happens is the water spins the turbine, and then it spins the generator, and then it produces electricity that is available for mankind to use. Don't worry, I'll tell you when to stop if we're getting attacked. Alright, so this is Cookin Kitty. I'm here down at power plant number 2, still trying to explain some of the science, how electricity is created. So I've explained a little bit, some very simple ideas of how water comes down into the plant to create electricity. But what's happening is that in the generator, this is the key thing. The key thing is that some dude in Britain created the idea of electromagnetic induction. And what that happens is, this is what I'm explaining, is how the water is creating electricity by turning mechanical things inside of a huge generator that's inside of this housing here. And what's happening is that the water is turning a turbine, which is inside of the generator. The generator on the turbine has a long shaft that is inside the generator, and what it is covered in a long one piece of copper wire started at one end and comes out the other, but it's wound up super tight in a coil of copper wire. And what happens is that that shaft is spinning because of the water pressure on the blades of the turbine. It is spinning, and it is in between a huge motherfucking magnet. It's like, we're talking about a huge magnet that might, erase our memories in our brains. I don't know, like a hard drive. I don't know what it would do to us. It might destabilize us. It might be, maybe it'd be a fun drug. But they're not going to let me in there because Homeland Security is after me, because they think that I'm anti-American, but I'm really pro-American. But what I'm trying to say is that this copper wire, which is electrical, conductive of electricity, spins in between a huge magnet. And on one side is the magnet is positive, and one is negative. Like the south pole of a magnet and the north pole of a magnet. When you put two magnets together on the ends that repulse each other, they go psh, psh. Well, they don't make that noise, but they, when you put two magnets together and they want to repulse each other, what's happened is you have these two huge motherfucking magnets, and that copper that is all wound up is spinning super fast, and it is, when it spins in between the positive and negative of this huge fucking magnet, it creates electricity that is stored inside that copper wire, and then in that copper wire, that electricity goes out to all the transmission lines everywhere. Created by some dude in Britain in around the 1830s. And then also, nothing would have happened with that guy's invention until Nikola Tesla came along from Serbia / not Yugoslavia, but he came from Serbia. Oh God. But anyway, he introduced into society something very important, that it's like, I'll just say Russia, but it's not really Russia, it's more specific. Serbia. And so he created something called alternating current, AC, versus direct current, which is called DC. Not to mention the Australian band, which I totally rock out to all the time. AC, DC, alternating current, direct current. Anyway, he created the electromagnetic induction, and then also the alternating current allowed for generating power. All right, this is Cookin Kitty, and we got the Snoqualmie Falls in the background, which is a sacred place for the Native Americans, the Snoqualmie Tribe. And then, so anyway, the white people came over and totally destroyed the sacred place. But well, they haven't destroyed it, because I am able to come here and enjoy. I feel that this is a very sacred place too, even though I'm not Native American. I feel like a certain amount of spirituality can be found from being here and enjoying the nature and the wonders of the falls themselves.